Hi, my name is Derek Van Tonder. Thanks for watching my videos at karmatraining.org. I'm the owner and prime suspect behind the site, which I created to help my dad. He needs some serious medical care and lives in South Africa, which is not famous for its great healthcare system. So instead of begging people for money, I thought I'd try this. I can't stand asking for a handout, and neither can my dad. So if you like my videos and want to learn more, why not subscribe at karmatraining.org? You'll get lifetime access to all new videos, transcripts, podcasts, and more forever. And you'll be helping my dad to get better. I'm not doing these videos for profit. They're to help my dad out. So that changed the business model for Karma Training. I wanted organic traffic growth through social media. Damn, I really sound like Arrington. To get that, I knew I needed killer content and lots of it. So luckily I specialize in game programming and have for 10 years, so it was pretty easy to choose a topic. On the internet, if you're not a specialist, very funny or very gross, you will be ignored. So I'm not that funny and hopefully not gross, but I do code for a living and I love teaching people stuff. It's good for my karma. So why not combine all that with YouTube and create some serious traffic is what I thought. But there were obstacles, many obstacles. So I figured I'd talk about how I set up my screencast and what challenges I faced. So what makes a good screencast? Well, there's 4 or 5 things: clarity, brevity, planning, rehearsal, and a disposition like a grumpy bulldog. So let's go through each of them. Clarity is very important. YouTube videos are limited to 10 minutes. So you have to get your point across in less than 10 minutes. That means that you probably have to rewrite your script several times just to get it down. I aim for 1 hour for a completed chapter, for a completed section, and each chapter should be about 10 minutes or under 10 minutes. I find that it's a really good way to focus your thoughts if you put things into 10-minute segments, and it forces you to be brief. You can't waffle on for half an hour about some obscure thing. You have to really get in there. So I try to spend most of the time actually hitting the keyboard and coding and getting some action into my video instead of just talking. But occasionally I will stop and just explain a point in more detail when I feel that it's important or it's a very subtle thing that's important. The other very important thing is planning. So a lot of work goes into my videos. My videos start out as a PowerPoint. But before I can do the PowerPoint, I have to have some sort of proof of concept. So the tile map videos are a good example. It took me about 2 weeks to create the actual project. 90% of the time I spent reading the ActionScript 3 documentation because I didn't know the names of all the API calls, and some of the subtleties of bitmap rendering in ActionScript are quite interesting. So that took me a while to figure that out. But once I got the 2D graphics side of it going, it was pretty straightforward. So there's quite a bit of planning that goes into it, and I also spent a lot of time making sure the code was really neat and that it was well structured, because I want someone to see that as a really good piece of code. I don't just want it to be some random piece of crap. Last but not least, you're going to need a lot of rehearsal. So I tend to probably record a particular chapter, a 10-minute chapter, at least 7 or 8 times before I'm happy with it. The first 4 or 5 times are usually just practice. So I do record them and I watch them, and every time I make some notes on things that could be done better. And the last few are where I get my tone and the cadence of my voice correct. So that's also very important, because I want to have this conversational style. So I'm not just teaching you something, I'm having a conversation with you. I'm showing you something cool, and that's, I think, what really brings warmth and interest to a video. And if you drop in a few jokes and a few lolcats, it doesn't hurt either. You need a disposition like a grumpy bulldog. It's very important. You have to be very persistent. You can't just give up 2 or 3 times into your video if you fluff it. You just got to keep on doing take after take until you get it right. And it does take a lot of, you have to be pretty bloody minded about it. So you need serious patience. You also need a lot of lolcats, because these technical videos can be pretty deadly boring if you watch a lot of them in a row. So people need to be entertained, and while watching something interesting, it remains interesting for a few minutes, but pretty soon it all gets much of a muchness. So drop in a few jokes here and there, and your videos will be a lot better. So I'm not a great comedian, so I just steal other people's jokes, and there's some great sites on the internet for jokes. So I hope those people aren't offended. I'm not trying to turn a coin based on their great jokes. I really just want to help my dad out, and I want to make people laugh and teach them stuff. So that's my motivation in doing this. So let's talk a little bit about setting up your scenario. Here's a photo of my setup. As you can see, I don't have a microphone stand, so instead I clip my microphone onto my HandyCam, which is designed to take it. I use the Rode VideoMic, which cost about $100. It's a cheap microphone, but it gives very good sound for that price, and it has a foam barrier on the front, which actually stops a lot of extraneous noise from getting in that you don't want. It's a very stable setup, but it does mean that I'm humping the microphone for every tutorial. There is one good side effect of this, and that is that it forces you into the correct posture, because there's actually a microphone sticking into your chest the whole time. So you sort of have to sit in the correct 90-degree elbow position in order to reach the keyboard and the mouse, which is kind of a hidden benefit of this scenario. I wouldn't recommend it for long-term use, but it's fine for recording a few 10-minute videos. So I use 2 machines and 3 monitors. It's surprising how much information you need to do a good screencast and to make it look slick. So the left LCD is a 19-incher that's used for the completed source code of my tutorial, and I use it as a reference. So I'll often be scrolling. I'll pause the 2 recordings if I forget how I did something, and I'll go and look that up quickly, and then I'll restart the video recording and continue from there. So you don't even notice it. I edit out that in the final cut. The center LCD is where the actual tutorial recording takes place. So that's my primary monitor. And I do a recording in VMware, which only takes up a portion of my monitor, but I do use the screen real estate for other things and for reference and help files and things like that. My laptop is on the right, and it's used to record a full screen PowerPoint presentation in HD resolution that doubles as my script and filler for the video. So we'll get into that in a minute, how I use that. But essentially I've got 2 recordings going on simultaneously, so I try really hard to start them at exactly the same time for synchronization purposes. I just use a pair of cheap Sony headphones. They've got reasonably good sound for editing. I'm not trying to, I don't really monitor the recording audio. I'm not making a movie or an opera here. I do want to get clean audio. I don't want the audio to be distracting, and I want it to be clear and not have any real strong accent in the video. I know I have a bit of an accent because I'm not an American or an Englishman, but I try and speak in a way that most people would understand me if they can speak English. That said, getting clean audio is important, so buy a halfway decent mic and put it about 2 inches away from your face. You don't want to be too close, but you also want to be not very far away at all. And that gives you flexibility in the edit later on. You can actually squelch the sound down slightly to get rid of most of the noise without compromising your voice, because your voice will be by far the loudest thing in the audio, which gives you a bit of headroom when you're editing. You'd understand more in later tutorials. I'll probably go through how to make the audio a bit cleaner. It's also very important that your microphone has a foam filter on it. As you can see here, the Rode has a very thick, very good foam filter. Otherwise, you'll hear every lick and pop from your lips. Every time you lick your lips, you'll hear that in the video because you're so close. So you really only want your voice. You don't want any of those other things. And this foam filter reduces small extraneous sounds like that. So it's very good. One of the biggest challenges of screencast recording is keyboard noise. So I type like a deranged psychomaniac on crack. So positioning the mic facing away from the keyboard is pretty crucial. That's also why I use this small Logitech keyboard. It is a softer key click than most comparable keyboards. And that said, you don't want to completely eliminate the keyboard sounds. It adds a bit of authenticity to your video. Another prime noise source is your PC itself. As you can see, I placed mine underneath my desk to cut out about 70% of the noise it makes. And last but not least, my chair is a soft sort of faux leather one that never really squeaks, which is, you don't want squeaks in your video. It's also a really amateur thing to have in your video. I use the open source CamStudio for all of my screen recording. It also captures audio, which is pretty convenient. And VMware is used to host the actual tutorial on a clean installation of Windows 7 RC that I downloaded from the internet. It was released freely by Microsoft, so it's legal to use and just sort of instantiated in VMware. It gives me a lot more control of what happens in the tutorial because I can record at a particular resolution, which would be difficult on my main monitor because it would look very grainy and it would be ugly and it would just be pretty crazy. So it's much easier if you've got it in VMware. On my laptop, CamStudio is also busy recording the full screen PowerPoint presentation at a very high resolution too. So you get really nice crisp text in your PowerPoint. And later on, I splice the 2 videos together as required to create a nice sort of presentation effect. It is also a lot more interesting than staring at a static screen during the explanations. You can also insert some lolcats during boring moments. It works for me. Well, that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this long-winded and whiny explanation of how I do my tutorials. Later on, I'll do another tutorial on the actual editing process, which I use Sony Vegas for. And it's pretty tricky to edit, encode, and upload high-quality HD YouTube videos. It's easy to upload YouTube videos, but uploading high-quality ones is very difficult. So I'll do a tutorial on that. And by the way, don't cross the streams.